Right, so hello and welcome to this video. What I'm going to video today is a follow-up to the homemade gravel rake part 1, which I did a month or so ago. In that video, obviously I showed you the rake, showed you it working, and then I said I would do sort of this second one then, sort of showing you it a bit more detail, the way it was developed. The eagle-eyed among you will notice that there have been a few changes to it since that video. But right, what I do, start off, when I first built it, basically I spent a lot of time looking on YouTube, like no doubt you are now, looking for ideas. Then I had a look round to see what metal I got lying about, and the starting point was this piece of 2-inch box section, and I then welded it onto some, I don't know how thick that is, some round tubing, fairly thick walled. I then took a piece of 50mm by 10mm flat bar and welded it in at an angle. You can see there, so a slight angle there, if I just zoom in. That's the cutting edge. I then took a piece of, that's 20mm angle iron, just like a final grade. What I did do then was I took, forget these ones for now, these ones, some of them, it's 10mm square bar, and I welded them in along here where these are now. It was all just the way along there, and then just for the anchor points, again same 10mm square bar, just cut, bent round, and re-welded just for these shackles to go onto. Use it like that. Zoom back a little bit, and it worked surprisingly well actually. What I did notice as soon as I started getting the gravel a little bit more sort of raked was the gravel was being collected and being thrown over the edge. So then I welded in these just little bits of box section I had kicking about, just so then it holds the gravel here. And you find then as more gravel you got on top of this, the more it pushes it down and the better it tends to work. Used it like that for a couple of months, was quite happy with it, except it was leaving the lines where this was running, where these, you know, skids if you like was running, and it took a while to figure out what to do. I then decided to take another piece of 3/4 inch angle iron, weld what 4-5 links of chain to it, a little bit wider than the actual machine as well, and that follow behind, and it just knocks them sort of lines out. Used it like that then for over a year, worked quite well. When the tines started to wear, I then come up with the idea then of making them all like sort of rippers. And if you notice on the part 1 of the video, if I actually just, wait a minute, just flip this up. That's it. Right, now I'm going to drop the camera and hand this in a minute, no doubt. So, what I did do, if you notice in that first part, in the part 1, these, I can't get where this is. Just see, let's zoom in. These are welded on straight. I took some 10mm, yeah, the 50mm by 10mm flat bar, the same as a cutting edge, to make the main part there, the top line up. And then what was cut off, where they'd worn, welded these in. I actually welded them in straight, which didn't work, because it was then almost like little mini skids, and it was skidding across the ground rather than digging in. It worked okay, but I had to end up putting a piece of 9x3 timber up on the top here to give a bit more weight to push down. So I then changed them see what I did then. Cut notches into like little bird's mouths into the 50mm, something like that. Welded them at an angle, and they've pointed themselves like that, just by work and use. But what it wants to do now, obviously it wants to dig. First time I used it after doing them though, did have a problem because it digs so well that I'll just lay it back down again. So what it would do, it was digging in so well at the front that it kept flipping and tipping right over. I honestly thought I'd completely crapped it up, but I decided then just to extend, put these little skids in, which is the same 50mm by 10mm flat bar. It actually is welded in at an angle, slightly uphill. What it tends to do now, it will dig in, it will tend, if it is really sort of digging, it tends to push itself up, sits on them skids, which then obviously helps it dig in even more then. It's still, if you hit something really immovable, it will flip, which isn't really probably a bad safety thing really. The final thing, which is something I've only done recently, as you can see now, that cutting edge has now been drilled and bolts in it. And what I've done, stand it back up again, is I have made, zoom in, almost like a cutting edge. That is, anyway, there. That is some 50mm by, I think it's about, I'm not getting shot. It's 50mm by, I think it's about 3mm. Which I sort of run over on the angle grinder and then bolted in. I was going to weld it in, but I thought it would be easier to unbolt it and resharpen it. And it has made a huge difference. I suppose it does when you actually, I'll just clean this off, get these leaves out of the way. If you actually look now, it does hang down quite a bit lower than the skids. The upside of it is I don't have to put any extra weight on it, because it is quite a vicious machine now. It will really does rip the ground up, and yeah, it sort of will cut the weeds off sort of very well. What you do notice with these when you work, I find by using it, is speed makes a big deal of it as well. Tend to find if you go at a very low forward speed, it tends to sort of dig in more. Also, if you don't know what's underground, it's as well to go sort of slow, because if you do hit something immovable underground, you're going to break. If you're lucky, you're going to break this. If you're unlucky, you're going to break the tractor. What I find is I start off at slow speed, so it's really digging in, doing its job. Once I've got the ground all loosened up, tend to go at a slightly higher forward speed then, which tends, if anything, tends to cause it to lift out the ground slightly, and sort of leaves a more sort of finished look then to the gravel. But yeah, that's basically it. Hope that's been useful. So now I think I've got it just about where I want it. The only modification I would like to make to it is I'd either like to make it either with a rigid drawbar, because I do struggle because you can't obviously get right into corners, or I have toyed with the idea of making it mounted, so it actually mounts onto the 2-point linkage in the same way as the sweeper would on the countax. It's possible. The only sort of thing then I'm worried then that it won't have enough sort of floating in it, and it might be a bit of a pain. And it also means that I wouldn't be able to use it on the Husqvarna, which I do use the Husqvarna. You have to watch, it hasn't got a lot of traction, but it does get in and out of corner's a little bit tighter than the Countach can. But yeah, that's that. So I hope that was useful to anyone. And yeah, there we go. So yeah, thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed, and hopefully we'll speak to you all sort of sometime later. Thank you.